Hey, beautiful people, how are we doing? I am Anitra N. Lawson, storyteller, producer, educator, content creator, the best sister in the world.
Oh, Lord.
Co-sign that, bro.
I will not. Your credit ain't good enough for me to co-sign with you.
He is Dr. Andre Eugene Evans. I love throwing his middle name out there so y'all can Google him and find out all of his history.
Jesus. Listen, no, don't do that. I've Googled my name before, and there's a guy who's been to prison for 5 years with my same first and last name. And then there's a football player. There's a football player with my first and last name too. So yeah, don't be Googling me.
So that middle name is good then. It's good to know that middle name is saving you right now.
No, neither one of them names saving me. Anyways, what's going on, Savage Siblings?
And he is my brother. He is a father. He is a pastor, theologian, author, creative, the second best storyteller in the family. Joking.
No,
kidding.
I agree with that one. I am not a storyteller at all.
And we are the Savage Siblings. This is the Savage Sibling podcast where we are brutally honest, relentlessly transparent, and unapologetically authentic. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Bro, checking in with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and getting ready for this episode. I have a good friend. Well, she's part of the choir at the church, and she comped me and Sharonda some tickets for an upcoming concert. And I don't know why, but I looked at the flyer, and I don't know why. For those of you watching in Dayton or listening rather in Dayton, Ohio, but it reminded me of a concert I went to with Mom several years ago. And this is when I was married to Katina. And Katina and I went to this concert. It was for Touch and the Touch Ups in Dayton. and oh God, they were just phenomenal. But the flyer had a guy, had all the band on there. And I'm looking at one guy who looks pretty prominent on the flyer. And the assumption is that he's the lead, but he's not. And this is why it reminded me of Touch and the Touch Ups several years back. When we went to that concert, the guys came out, the band came out, singers came out. Touch started singing. And I mean, the Touch Ups are getting it. They in old school fashion, doing their thing. And I'm going to tell you, as you're watching the concert, which is great, and it's great because they're local, it's great because they can sing, so everybody in the crowd knows them, but I'm watching, and like in between Touch and one of the touch-ups, all of a sudden this like tambourine pokes through, and it's just shaking, and then it disappears. And then it like pokes through again, and it's just shaking, and then it disappears. And this tambourine is being held by hands that are not Touches, and not the touch-up fans. And then all of a sudden, like, partying like the Red Sea, this dude comes out with his tambourine, gets to the front of the stage. And I mean, when I tell you, he had a whole church rhythm going. You know that old lady in church? Bang that tambourine on like beat 7 and 8 and 3/4.
On her hips, on her hand, on her side, like everywhere.
She's hitting rhythms on that tambourine that just the Holy Spirit would be proud. That's why that song, Make a Joyful Noise unto the Lord, it was penned after her. David was like, there's going to be this woman in church. This going to be for her. That's what this dude was like. I mean, when I tell you he took over the rest of the show, we wasn't even listening to Touch anymore. We wasn't even listening to the touch-ups. We just got excited every time that little tambourine peeked through Touch one of the touch-ups, started shaking, and his whole body emerged, and he was getting it. And I remember saying in that moment, look, whatever you do, get in where you fit in and do it well. And that's really what he did. He played that tambourine like nobody's business. And so that made me laugh. And I felt like, man, God, you came up with the right just memory for this episode. Really, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Just, whatever you do. I don't care if you're a tambourine player. Get in where you fit in and play that bad boy like nobody's business. I think I laughed on that for a few days. But And what it really ended up doing for me the rest of the week is just like, can you just enjoy what you're good at doing everywhere you go?
Yeah, do you.
Right. Just enjoy what you do wherever you go. Do you. Be the best you. Don't be trying to mimic anyone else. I've heard people say, oh, Andre, you go be the next. And I always tell them, I ain't going to be the next anybody. I'm going to be the first best Dre. Just
That's
do
so
you.
Good.
Just have a great time. I'm telling you, I'm in the car. I'm doing my best car driver's seat moves in the car. I don't care anybody looking. I'm just doing me. I don't know his name. But for those of you listening to Dayton, if you know Touching the Touch-Ups, I need you to get this episode.
You know they do know.
Right. I need you to get this episode to the tambourine dude with Touching the Touch-Ups.
Right.
Let him know. He has inspired me. He has inspired me. So, but yeah, I've been rocking with that energy all week long since I thought about it. Just everywhere I go, just enjoying my complete authentic self. Don't care what anybody think. I'm just gonna do.
That's right.
Do me.
That's right.
Do me. And it's that stuff like that is infectious. It is absolutely attractive.
Yes.
And it just changes the atmosphere. You just realize who you are in any atmosphere where you go when you just doing you and enjoy being the best parts of you. So yeah, that is what I've been vibing off of all week. That's what my energy has been, thanks to Touch and the Touch-Ups tambourine player. So, but that's me. What about you? What's been going on with you?
Your story reminds me, and they're gonna come through the speakers and get me on this, but I remember when I went to see More Stay in the Time, and isn't the gentleman's name Jerome?
Jerome.
Is that right?
Jerome.
That's how your story reminded me, because the first time I saw them live, I was mesmerized at just how energetic and dope his energy was. And of course, you can't go wrong with More Stay in the Time. It was a dope show, but I was like, Jerome ain't nothing. Like he is
not to play with.
A critical, integral, amazing part of this entire, ensemble and experience. And so that's what I kept thinking. That's how I felt about him. And he knew it too. He was on the stage like, yeah, I'm here. Like, don't trip.
I don't sing. I don't play no instrument, but this is what I do.
Get that mirror, bring it out. Like, he's like, go ahead, Jerome. Man.
Shout out to all the Jerome, the tambourine players, the Macios for every James Brown, what is it, Bentley Farnsworth for all.
That's what I was thinking for P.
Shout out to all those dudes. Shout out to Bishop Don Juan for the Snoop Dogs out there.
There you go.
Shout out to all these players. I mean, because they really make the world go round.
They are really
make the world. They are so necessary. And if that's you, man, shout out to you. Man. Like, God bless you. Hold that mirror.
I love it.
Play that tambourine. Open that umbrella. Put on the cape. Do what you got to do. Put the cape on. God bless you, people. God bless y'all.
I love it. That's truly what your story reminded me of. And it was one of the best parts of that concert. I was so glad I got a chance to see them. But yeah, no, I'm doing really well. This week for me has been the week of like second wind.
Oh, nice.
And I think that's actually, connects beautifully to the stories we just presented, that, having those people in your corner that, when you're trying to catch your breath and get that second wind, they're usually the ones that really help fan that along,
Yeah.
And so I know just throughout this week, it's just been very much of when I feel like I can't give another inch and I'm just like, I really am tired, or I really want to break, or just want to let this go.
Yeah.
God has been so good at just saying, I got you. And then he just, graces me with a flood of a second wind to just keep going further. And I do feel like absolutely people around you can help undergird you, while that second wind is building up. And so, so I've been so grateful for that I could take that breath, take that beat, and know that a second wind, God's going to bless me with that. People who love me, who are around me, are going to bless me with that second wind. And so I just soar forward. You soar on once it comes. So definitely grateful.
Yeah, I love that. Daniela, my oldest daughter, always says, I can never have 2 bad days, because on my first bad day, my tribe, meaning her family, my tribe shows up and beats the drum, and I get back up. Like she said that not too long ago.
That's so good.
It really is. It really, and it is so important to have those folk around you. And realize how valuable they are in that type of role in your life. And it's huge. It's huge. Yeah, when she said that, she said, I don't get 2 bad days in a row. Because when I tell you about my first bad day and you get on the line telling everybody to pray for me, I feel my tribe
That's it.
beating the drum, and I got to get up and start going. And so, yeah, man,
that's so good.
God puts those people in your life, and they are so instrumental. They really are so valuable. Everybody has value that's in your tribe. Everybody has value that's, that helps you, just kind of get your second win and keep going. So yeah, absolutely. I feel that one.
I love it. Let's jump into this sound off segment.
Sound off segment. Sound off.
I'm going to go ahead and dig in here real quick.
Okay.
Because when I was thinking about this episode, it came from a conversation that I was having with a few of my friends, really based in some creative endeavors that we're working on. But it kind of boiled down to this notion of, or this idea of, there's a fundamental need in every human experience to be needed, right? Like that. Yeah, it's an important and vital part of the life journey that we as human beings need to feel needed. And I think that word feel is critical, which we'll definitely kind of unpack it a little bit later. But I mean, if you think about romantic relationships, right? There's a need to feel needed on both sides. When you think about parents to children and children to parents, like that experience. Certainly employers to employees, right?
Absolutely.
There's a need, there's a give and take between those dynamics. I think really all manners of partnerships and friendships, at the core, there's always that kind of need to feel needed. And so, we titled this episode, Get In Where You Fit In, because we want to spend some time today unpacking where that comes from, this need to feel needed and how you can kind of navigate that. But I totally wholeheartedly agree with this idea that there's a fulfillment, right?
Right.
That we get that comes from wanting to be significant.
Right.
Even if it's just to one person, right? And then, in feeling that desire to be significant to just one person or several, then obviously we want to feel appreciated, feel valued for what it is that we bring. And so we always start the sibling sound off segment from our perspective as siblings. And I really can only truly speak from, the baby, from the youngest sibling. And I certainly want to kick it to you, bro, to unpack the oldest perspective. But I'm going to just be frank, you guys. I absolutely never felt that I was needed in my family. And let me be clear, I was very happy about that, right? I always recognized as the baby and the baby girl in our four-person home that I was the needy one. And yes, some people may call that spoiled. Some people may call that, I don't know, we'll get to, the notions of codependency and things like that. But I was actually happy. Like, you think about it. We all had to do chores, right? Well, maybe dad didn't, but me and you and mom did chores growing up.
Yeah.
But I never once thought, if I don't do these dishes, the family will fall apart. Goodness. Right. If I don't do this, take out the trash, if I don't do these things, right? Everything is going to fall into calamity. No, I understood that and I'm going to really kind of emphasize this for the youngest sibling. It's a I get to rather than have to.
Sure.
Right. I get to do this rather than have to. And that was always really special to me because it really started to shape my mindset, good and bad, right? Which we'll talk about. But I think, and I did some research on younger siblings in terms of how we contribute to families and how we feel about where we're needed. Research shows that the youngest baby siblings often sought out fun experiences more than maybe the older or the middle child.
Sure.
Because we understood we were the needy ones. We understood that when we came into, this life, our mindset was not about, they need me. It was like, no, you've already laid out this land and everything that's here, you've already created a brand for the family. And I get to partake in all of it, right?
Right.
So my mindset as a younger sibling was, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine.
Yeah, because
that's exactly how I felt, right? I was never once concerned about my needs being met. It didn't even exist. They were always met. I didn't question it. And obviously, we're talking about being blessed to be raised in a healthy home, not perfect, obviously, but healthy where things were in place. But so when I was unpacking my perspective as a younger sibling in terms of the need to feel needed, that didn't even hit me until I was an adult. Like it didn't become a reality for me until I was out of the house.
Right.
Which is an important thing to start to learn. And obviously your parents will guide you. They try to make sure you're not spoiled, try to help you learn maturity. And we'll get into that. But it was very much my experience of I get to contribute. I don't have to, right? It was very much my experience that everything that my family has is mine. And I actually can even lean into what's mine is mine. And more than likely, because I'm the baby, because I'm the youngest, no one's going to say, oh no, you have to share that per se, or you have to contribute, because if you don't, the family's going to fall apart. And so when I think about this question is, of as siblings, do we understand that we're needed? And I want to hear from our listeners. For me, as the youngest, no, I did not understand or ever feel like I was needed for the strength of the family until I became an adult, or until I moved out of the household and started learning, more of the nuances of life. And so I just didn't feel it. I was protected. I was spoiled. I never felt like I needed to, contribute by necessity. It was more about, you're part of it. You're the baby. We're going to undergird you. And so I love that space. And it definitely put me into an environment of independence that I'll definitely unpack more. But I want to kick it to you just to see your thoughts on just the subject for today from the sibling perspective. Certainly you as an older brother, what are your thoughts as we dig into this?
I'm over here shaking my head in angst. The audacity
Right.
of everything you just said. The audacity of
and listen, and younger siblings, let us know if that was your experience, because I think it was for a lot of us. But I want to hear back. Go ahead, bro.
It is the experience of every younger sibling, and that's this is a PG show, okay? And that's some bull, man. I'm gonna tell you, no, that's some, and I know that's how you felt. I'm not. I didn't know it in real time, but
sure.
If I've laid out the groundwork, so all you got to do is just simply partake in the fruit of all the labor I had to have and do. Not only because I was there before you, but because I was the freaking trial run. Mom and Dad didn't understand how to what children were needed for, and they also didn't understand how to make children feel needed in a healthy way. So I'm the trial run. So do I understand what that I'm needed? Sure, but I understand it through being rejected first. I understand it through being rejected on so many levels. Like, I understand it through like, well, why I got to do all this? How come Nikki can't do it? Rejection, because I said so. But that's not helping.
She's delicate.
Well, why does she always have to come with me? Why can't I go be independent by myself? Rejected. So I understand being needed through being rejected of the things I actually wanted to do in life. And see, for you, I'm hearing how you ingested that on a mental level, and I'm shaking my head because what I ingested was social pain. Andre, why your sister always got to come with us? Social pain. Andre, why you can't come out? Why you got to babysit your sister? Social pain. Like, I don't know. No, I'm needed wrong. Like, this isn't what I want to be needed for. You were needy. I was needed. And all of it was wrong. All of it was wrong. There's no part of this that was...
It runs the gamut.
We're talking about emotional pain. That with psychological and physical, right? Emotional damage.
Right?
Okay. You processed it different. Look at how you processed it. Like everything 100%. Was laid out for you. It was great.
It was.
I
said, what's mine is mine. What's yours is mine.
That's exactly how I was treated, not just from you, but from even a parental standpoint.
Yeah.
It was, no, Andre, you got to share that. That ain't just for you. But she didn't put in on this. Like, she didn't do the work on this. I could be out with my boys. Y'all made me be here. Y'all, no. And it's crazy because, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, well, wait a minute. I laid this beautiful path and I didn't mean to lay it. I was forced to lay it.
Living life.
Laid this beautiful path. And what I came out is Andre, we need you to do this. So I've got a definition of being needed that's clearly different from your definition of being needed. It's huge. And it also, we'll unpack this in a second, what I had to learn is how to shift from being needed to saying I belong, which is two different things.
Ooh, wow, that's good.
You walked in saying I belong.
Mm-hmm.
You
Absolutely.
didn't have to
That's
go through the needed. And see, and if I can just give a difference, when people don't understand needed versus feeling belong, when you feel needed, the flip side of that is when you don't feel like you're getting your needs met, it can be detrimental. So that's why you're able to say, no, I had a beautiful life. They weren't perfect, but I had everything I needed because I had to go through what the process of understanding of, I know what it feels like to be needed. Now I just want to belong. I don't want to feel needed, because then if I don't get my needs met, then I become, I think psychologists call it wallflower syndrome. What I mean is now I'm that person at the dance that's begging for somebody to ask him to dance and nobody does. So I just stand on the wallflower, don't feel needed. Or I become the last person picked in the sports, in the basketball at the blacktop. And that's what I'm known for. Dre always picked last. Nobody really wants him. Right. But when you shift and you're able, and again, we'll unpack this later, but when you shift and you're saying to yourself, okay, no. I'm going to get in where I fit in. When I get to the point of understanding is no, I wasn't needed. I belonged. And it's the way I belonged that allowed me to say, this feels good to be here now. This feels good to be. So I didn't experience what you felt coming up until an adult. Right. And then I had to be able to say, okay, I have all these tangible, transient skills and ethic that I learned in the home, but I don't know why. But now that I'm out here in the real world by myself, I remember when Kaylin and I first moved all the way across the world to Tallahassee to go to Florida State, we belonged. We felt like we belonged for the first time because it wasn't a chore anymore. It was, no, this is just kind of who we are. You know, right. We have the privilege of running our apartment the way we want to run it. And not just the way we want to run it. Kaylin was good at this. I was good at that. And so we felt like we belonged in the apartment together. Versus feeling like I'm needed. Because, when you feel like you're needed, or if you understand being needed, well, what happens when they don't no longer need you?
Teach.
But when you feel like you belong, that doesn't end. That doesn't end at all. What might end is the duties of you belong, but the feeling of belonging never ends. And so that's when I'm hearing you talk about it. Yeah, that was where I was at. That's what I was feeling and because think of it. So for the older sibling, we're not just needed. We're needed, but we're fighting for independence as well.
Yes, that's it. That's
right. So while mom is saying, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I don't reach the needy. Like the spoiled, I never felt that. I didn't reach the needy. What I was, I need you to do that, I need that. And I'm saying, but I'm trying to get out this house because I'm trying to be independent. And as long as I'm in this place, I can't meet milestones. Like there's nothing more of a milestone for me to be able to come back to the home and say to Nikki, we was out balling and we did this independence of parenthood. That I can't reach as long as I am needed, versus if I were the younger sibling and I'm needy, what feels like spoiled, then I don't feel the need to break away in independence because I feel like I'm in this path where I belong. So I think there's so many different angles to that, being the older sibling and the younger sibling. And what I'm most interested in for those of you listening is what do you feel if you're the middle child? Like,
yes, exactly.
What does that mean?
Had, yes.
What is that? Because that experience I actually don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know. I was too busy trying to wiggle my way out of being needed. I was too busy trying to get through just kind of, again, that natural development struggle as an adolescent where, the family is depending on me, but I'm trying to get my independence. And I'm trying to rely on friends more than I am on my parents. But there's also a detriment to that as well. Now that I think about it, because that detriment is I know well, mom and dad, I'm the trial run as the child.
Right.
They're saying,
first time.
Right. So I know you're being pulled by your friends, but I still need to give you guidance even outside this house. So even that. So part of the feeling needed versus feeling belong was mom and dad saying, I'm not ready to just release you carte blanche to your friends because they can't guide you. They're still trying to get their independence too. Whereas when you come along, it's okay. Well, we screwed up this with Andre. We ain't gonna do this with Nikki. we messed up with this way with Andre. We ain't gonna do this with Nikki. They're looking at all the things. I'm the walking litmus test, and the three of y'all huddling on the side, like, yeah, you see the way he walked? We can't let Nikki walk that way. You see the way he looked? Yeah, we can't let it. So it really is. This, so I'm not just needed in what I do. I'm needed so that mom and dad can learn how to do better with you. And that sucks too. That absolutely sucks. And
I imagine most older children probably share that sentiment to some extent too. So
Heck yeah.
I had the same notes in terms of that question for middle children. And please, we definitely want you guys to let us know, because we're taking this from our perspective and our experience, but curious if you're a middle child, because you think about the older child often directly or indirectly takes on responsibility for also modeling, the brand of the family, whether you want to or not, to your younger siblings. And so sometimes there's perfectionism that sets in because you're trying to do what your parents said, trying to, help the younger child, rear differently, and you get forced into that position. And other times, like you said, you're trying to find ways to get the responsibility out of the way so you can move on to your own independence. And certainly for the youngest child, that babysitting mindset or, kind of coddling, everything is there. But I agree that middle child might feel very much lost in translation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel like they can't figure out how to navigate the family dynamics because they don't necessarily take on the responsibility of the older children. And obviously they're not getting the attention of the babying per se of the youngest. And so I definitely would like to hear from that. But I think the thing that you said that really struck me, because we'll talk about this as we get to the Savage segment, is this notion of transition in it. So where for you, it was like you said, seeking to belong as you got out into your freedom and adulthood.
Right.
For me, I had to learn the role of, needing to be needed as I got into adulthood. So then I started navigating that. And I think for you started protecting independence, which I was doing that early on,
right?
Because of my status. And so, yes, it feels like that, the innate, desire to feel needed, puts us in transitions, puts us in spaces throughout life where we kind of toggle between or ping pong between or just kind of flow between that based on where we are in our life. And I think that's kind of why it's so important to recognize it, to spend time thinking about it, because at different seasons you're going to have to contend with it. I was thinking about our grandfather, and this goes, beyond the dynamics of siblings, but still speaks to how family deals with the need to feel needed in different, just different iterations in life. And I remember when he was close to dying, he had been sick a few times in and out. And we've talked about our grandfather a lot on the podcast and probably will continue to do so because he was just such a dope human being.
Absolutely.
But so he took pride. Like Grandpa loved being the provider.
He did.
The protector.
He absolutely.
Giving of identity. And I mean, and you could speak to this too, bro, having a wife and a daughter. He lost his son at a young age. And I think they had one other little girl, I believe, passed away. But so, I imagine as a man, that's even more heightened when you have a wife and a daughter, like two beautiful girls, women to take care of. And so when Mom was talking to me about the last couple of months, let's say weeks, months in his life, because he was, he took pride in, obviously working, taking care of home, providing the house, et cetera. And then when it got to where he retired, I watched Grandpa take pride in washing clothes and
Mm-hmm.
cooking the meals and,
Mm-hmm.
fixing things around the house. And then even when it got to where he was on a walker and things like that, he still took pride in, making the meals and pushing it on his walker to my
Yeah.
grandma and setting it next to
Yeah.
her. And that might be the two things he did all day, but he would still do it, which speaks to, I definitely think there are seasons of our life where not only do we value the need to be needed, but it really becomes a key part of our identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think about it with our mom, I think we could all probably agree, grandparents very much get into that space where they're like, I love being here to support my children, my grandchildren, my great-grands. As a matter of fact, I heard Kareem Abdul-Jabbar talking about the last, several years of his life, how much he's enjoyed being around his grandkids and great-grandkids.
I read that.
And he's like, you mean to tell me I can lay down and play Legos with them rather than go do a sports interview? Like I'm good. Like this season of my life, I thank my career, my basketball career. I thank all those beautiful things, but now I can just play Legos. Like, let's go.
Right.
That's a need to feel needed, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we start to learn in different seasons why it's so important to recognize it. Because it will fulfill you. And so, with Grandpa Dangerfield, that very much was that season of his life. And so when it came down to the point to where he got sick and had been hospitalized, and the initial mindset, the way Mom describes it, was at first they were kind of like, okay, what do we need to do medically so we can just get him home? And so, they're figuring out medication, different options. And so she described those days she would go to the hospital every day. Mom would to see Grandpa. And they would play Chinese checkers and cards. And it was still fairly positive because the focus was, what do we need to do to get you back home? The unfortunate side of that is once they realized there was nothing medically that could be done. And, Grandpa was like, I think 92, 93 when he passed away. So, good years. Mm-hmm. And they realized, okay, this season of his life is coming to an end. Mom told me the shift in his focus, which Dre speaks to exactly what we're talking about in this podcast. He immediately understood. And I mean, she said he cried, and she remembers the moment where he just kind of went into prayer with God. And I totally believe they had their conversation where God said, son, you've run your race. It's time for you to come on home. Mm-hmm. And gave him, the opportunity to have the last couple of, day, maybe weeks or so, to really pour into our mom, to help her understand now that it's time for me to go on and my journey has ended where, my ability to take care of the needs is now going to transfer to you because you're going to have to step in and take care of your mother. Mom said that he spent like an entire afternoon literally just going through creating like a checklist. And when I tell you it was a checklist of emotional needs for Grandma and emotional needs for her, and financial needs and physical needs, and running it down because he had been that person that understood I have to be I have to be okay, being needed for my daughter who's a grown woman who can take care of herself, but I'm still there. Right. And for my wife. And so she said it got serious, and it was really hard, obviously, to kind of go through that with your dad and see that, his life is coming to closure. And she said that, Dre, after he had that conversation with her, that then he just got quiet. And she said he really never talked much more after that, even though I think he lived for another week or two. Yeah. But he understood he was passing the mantle on. He was passing the torch on. And I think probably part of it, too, is it's probably very difficult when you've been used to being that person that understands that the need to be needed, and you realize you can no longer be that because he wasn't able to walk anymore, or even on a walker. He wasn't able to get out of the bed. And then she even described it as a very, I don't know if the right word is stoic, but just a strength that came through him, that after he had that moment with God and cried, she said he never cried again. That he was rested, he was at peace. And he said to her, and she said when she came into the hospital that day, when he really kind of poured into her all of the things, she said she'd never seen him more serious. Because she came in with the Uno cards and the Chinese checkers and was like, you ready to take this whooping? He was like, nope, we got business. Not what we're doing right business. Now. Yep, we got family business. And I believe that it was very fulfilling for him to be, to be able to step in and be what they needed. And so I feel like we all get an experience with that, sometimes more than once throughout our life journey. And so just really understanding how you feel about the need to be needed and making sure it's healthy but then also recognizing when you need help. I think that's what we're going to unpack from there. But I'll kick it back to you before we get to the sponsorship.
Well, no, I think through that story, everyone can get a better understanding of, or at least a better consideration if they're needed, when you just kind of think about those kind of important people in your life, whether they're family or friends, significant other, members of your community, even your job. And as you're kind of thinking about them, kind of reflecting on how much they actually kind of care about you, how much they internalize your interests, like the things that you're interested in life, things like how much they would sacrifice for you, emotional sacrifice, mental, not just financial or physical, but just, all these different layers of sacrifice, how much they respect you, how much they admire you. When you're feeling all of that and you see that value, sense that value in all of those areas, then the thing about being needed is now showing you just this positive psychological life existence well-being, right? So this is the good, feeling needed is not doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I think sometimes people feel like when they're always needed in a certain way, it's a bad thing, but sometimes feeling needed is a good thing. So we don't want to misconstrue, conflate. We don't want to confuse what you're being requested of as they're just trying to walk over you or drain you. Sometimes it's coming from a space that's deeper than what you're seeing or what you're hearing or what you're feeling. It's coming from a place that's actually showing, no, there's an actual psychological well-being of this person's need for you. But again, the flip side of that is if you did that same reflection and you feel slightly depressed, or you feel slightly disconnected, or you feeling, the opposite of good, then chances are your relational value, whether it's your expectations, your needs that are being unmet, what you're feeling in terms of what you deserve, is low. And the idea there is to have a high relational value, because the higher my relational value, the more healthy the need is. In fact, the higher the relational value, the more you actually translate from feeling needed to feeling like you belong. And that's ultimately where you want to get to, is feeling like you belong, not just needed. Needed is probably a great pivot point, because you're either rejected, needed, or what we're looking for in relationships is a high enough relational value that you feel like you belong here. Yes, people need what I bring to the table, but the overarching feeling is, but I belong, and that's why I'm needed. And then that's ultimately kind of what we want to go to. So that story about Grandpa, if you notice, it even shifted Mom from being needed to belong, right? Because when he says, I'm passing the torch to you, why? Why didn't I pass it to hospice? Why didn't I pass it to a nursing home? Because Grandma doesn't belong there, and you don't belong there as a visitor. Right? No, we're putting two people together because they belong together. And I'll be honest with you, I remember Dad saying, we put this in a podcast last season. I remember Dad saying to you, I believe, after Mom and Dad had separated, that Mom had to go back to Dayton because she needs to be with family. Yeah. Whereas 100%. Dad is like, nah, I'm going to stay here in the Dub K because I don't need none of y'all. Like, I belong by myself. So, you know what I mean? And that's okay, because he knows where he belongs. Because I'm like Dad. I'm like Dad. I can live in San Diego by myself. I don't have to be with I definitely belong.
Value,
I value family. I belong as my mama's son, my dad's son, my sister's brother. I belong there, but I don't need to be in their physical space. And see, that's the shift when you have a healthy situation where you're needed, a healthy one. Belonging is that area where you get in, where you fit in. Needed is that area where you're not getting in where you fit in. You're forced to be there. And we don't want to feel that way. We definitely
That's
don't
good.
want to feel that way. So yeah, that's I know we're going to go into the sponsorship shout out, but yeah, I love that story about Grandpa shifting and saying now, Lois, because he didn't call it Dolores, Lois.
Right.
You're no longer needed. You belong right now. You absolutely belong.
Good.
And what's crazy, Nikki, I know we got to do sponsor, but what's crazy, Nikki, is I heard a shift in Mom's conversation about being home.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
Before this moment in Mom's life, I definitely felt like Mom was a caretaker. Like I moved back home to be a caretaker.
Yeah.
But after this moment, I heard the words of a daughter. And I think that's so different.
Yeah.
It's so different. And it's such a different, and that's the thing. When Mom was making her transition from Dayton to LA, prior to that transition, Nikki, we were talking as caretakers.
Caretakers, 100%.
But after we had that conversation with Mom at the park, we were talking as her children, and that's such a different stance.
Agreed.
It's such a different stance. One is needed. The other is, no, Mom, you belong here. With Nikki, not with Andre, but you belong here.
See how he does me out?
In this region.
Temporarily. I keep saying I'm going to drop her out. Speaking of belonging, let's shout out our sponsor for this episode, none other than S2 MediaWorks, a media production company co-founded by my brother and I. And our focus is we're creating content to educate, empower, inspire, and encourage positive living and influence through original narratives. We love telling stories. We love sharing our journey. We love sharing our scars, right? It's all part of growth, and it helps us, and hopefully it's helping you. Our mission at S2 MediaWorks is to provide transformational education, hopefully resources that are going to promote healthy and productive living through creative storytelling. And we're dedicated to doing that each and every day. The Savage Siblings podcast is a product of S2 Media, our lineup, and we have so many other projects that we have in the canon that we can't wait to share with you. So as always, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. And with that, bro, you ready to get savage?
Yeah, definitely. Let's definitely get savage. So as Nikki said, the title of this episode is Get In Where You Fit In. And so as we're just kind of looking at that notion, that need to be needed, need to understand your place with, in a particular dynamic, relational or structural, whatever it might be. One of the things that Nikki already said, and I want to unpack here for just a moment, is that we really are created for belonging, where we're created to be needed. And we're created it in that in such a way that it's not just about what you bring to the table, what you do. It's really about who you are that makes the difference as to whether or not it's a healthy need or an unhealthy need. So like, Nikki, if I said to you, here's an infant that's cuddling and being protected by their mother, or I say to you, here's an adolescent girl that's asked out on a date by a boy who she has a crush on. Or I say to you, here's this student athlete who's being carried on the shoulders of his teammates off the field because he just scored the winning goal. Or if I say, here's an employee that was fired by his boss and receives no calls or expressions of concern. If all of those kind of bring out some type of emotion, like most people, we're going to have some type of emotion from these very brief descriptions of what it is I'm talking about, these scenarios I brought up, whether it's empathy or whether it's hurt or whether it's joy, whatever it might be, whatever brief emotional experience that was just had when I talked about these things, then you're in the subject, or at least you have the understanding of why we were created for relationship. Now, here's my question for you. In each of those scenarios, who did you see as yourself? So when I said the infant and the mother, who did you see as yourself, the mother or the infant? Or what did you see of yourself? Did you see yourself showing up as the one, you definitely knew to cuddle, or you knew how to soothe the baby, right? So in all these scenarios, you end up kind of seeing yourself as something. And here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. When we say get in where you fit in, when we say we all have a need to be needed because we were created for relationship. We were created for belonging. It's because we have this intuitive psychology. And that intuitive psychology says, I'm in a scenario, whether it's a relationship or an institution or a system, I'm in this and I'm valued. My relationship to the scenario brings value out of me. And when I look at my value in any situation, that's what helps me know, am I in a healthy belonging or an unhealthy needing? And that's a struggle for most people to both understand and respond to. And the reason I say struggle is because if I'm in a healthy belonging, then the struggle might not be there so much, but the struggle shows itself when we're struggling to be who we are authentically. Because belonging requires authenticity. Let me just be me. And if I'm just me in this situation and I still fit really well and I'm still contributing and I'm still pushing forward the scenario or the situation, then that's a healthy belonging. Some people are in a belonging, but they don't know who they are. And they don't know the value of just being themselves. And so that becomes that ends up being an unhealthy needing. And then there are those on the flip side that they're only there because they just want to feel needed by somebody, needed by something, because the majority of their experiences in life, it's been rejection. It's been ostracized. It's been, you don't really belong here. You don't fit in here. You don't look like us. You don't act like us. And so so they don't have the relational value that comes with a healthy belonging versus an unhealthy needing. And so I say it's a struggle because do people really know their relational value whenever they step onto a particular scene, situation, scenario, circumstance, whatever it may be? Every room I walk in, I know my relational value. Now, part of it is because I can be highly egotistical and I can be like, I don't need people. So that's a great portion of who I am. That helps me say, I know, but I also believe there is a healthy balance between being knowing your value in independence and knowing your value in dependence, or what I'm going to call belonging. But there are a lot of people that walk into a room and they're just uncertain. They're just absolutely uncertain of who they're supposed to be here. And that's why I say sometimes it's a struggle just to be yourself. Like, I don't ever want to be in a situation or a room or amongst company where I can't just be me. I just can't just let me flow. And sometimes for me, that's difficult to overcome initially because most people know me from Sunday morning. But I am not Sunday morning.
No.
I'm complex. I'm definitely more complex. So sometimes it's a struggle, not for me to be myself as much as it's for me to come to be somebody and be like, listen, I was coming out of the book of Matthew this morning, but now I'm coming out of this Pinot Noir and I'm going to be all right. You're going to be all right. Yes, I was coming from the theological teachings of John. But yes, now I'm finna come from the beverage teachings of Bud Light. And you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. Look, I'm not saying Andre's going to be all right. You're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. Because, listen, I belong at this sports bar. I belong in this movie theater. I belong at this amusement park. Like these, you know what I'm saying? So for some people, it's a struggle because you know what? You're carrying yourself on the job one way. You're carrying yourself in your home another way. You're carrying yourself in church another way. You're carrying yourself on the road another way. Who are you? And see, that kind of dilutes your relational value. And you may not ever get a sense of belonging because you're morphing everywhere you go. Here, I need to be this. Here, I need to be that. Here, I need to be this. No, everywhere I go, I belong here. Why? Because I am this. I belong here. Why? Because I am this. I don't ever say I need. I am this. I am. People come up to Corinne and Corey all the time, be like, you know, your dad's crazy. And they'll be like, yeah. Why? Because I'm crazy with them. I'm crazy on the job. I'm crazy in the church. I'm crazy with them kids. I'm crazy on the road. I'm crazy
in the grocery store.
In the grocery store, I'm crazy. It's just that's so you know, because to me, that's my relational value. That's absolutely my relational value. People will tell me on Sunday morning, "Oh, you just real when you up there," because I'm not finna come up there speaking the Queen's English, talking about these and thous. No, I'm gonna come up there talking about, I done went through hell yesterday, but thank God for God. Thank God for Jesus. I almost cussed somebody out yesterday, but thank God for the Holy Spirit, right? And that's what I'm saying on Friday, and that's what I'm saying on Sunday. That's what I'm saying on Wednesday night, and that's what I'm saying on Sunday. You know, I just. Can you belong because you're just being you? That's your relational value. And that's why people say, man, we need you around. Why? Because you're just being yourself and you belong.
Authentic. Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I love that. And I co-sign all of it. And the struggle is real. I think when I was kind of processing it, it's what you say. It starts with you really analyzing yourself and understanding who you are as you're now going through life, where life is going to require that kind of, I don't know if duality is the word, but the both sides of the coin of being needed and then, you know, trying to also maintain your independence. So I labeled it the versus syndrome. Please, you guys don't come at me, y'all. I love versus like the next person, the millions of people that love it. But I loved it as it evolved to a space of you didn't have to, air quotes, choose a winner. Because I'm telling you, Earth, Wind, and Fire and Isley Brothers, they're both equally dope in their own ways, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that same kind of, you know, I'll say loose comparison when we're kind of defining ourselves. I mean, for me, I never liked the pressure of being needed. And that comes from me being the youngest child. That comes from, you know, natures of being spoiled, things like that. Because I felt like that pressure was a threat to my independence, right?
Yes.
And so I was raised as an independent young woman. So there's layers, which is what Bro was saying about the complexity of understanding who you are as you delve into how you're going to navigate the need to be needed and the need to control. Because that's really the thing. When we're kind of on the pro-independent side, what we're also saying is I want to build spaces that I own. Because I want to be able to control it, to control my independence so that I can what? So I can give it at will or I can protect it at will. And so when you're kind of navigating this versus space of I value my independence, I value that space where I can keep people out, where I don't have to say, oh, you need help. No, that's going to take something from my independence. That means I got to give you some of mine. That versus syndrome says, hey, you don't have to choose. Life is not about choosing that independence versus if you're going to give in someone else's, you know, I'll call it that vulnerability of needing versus if you're going to help somebody, you're going to go back and forth. And so you have to first really get an understanding, like Andre just really presented, of who you are and be okay, you know, being that person that there's times where your independence needs to be protected and maybe you're not the answer to someone else's need. And then there's times where, no, you need to step up and be, you know, give and support and provide some resources to someone else. I'll give you a couple of examples. I was dating this guy who lived in Sacramento and I was in LA and I would fly out to visit him on certain weekends. And so, you know, in my desire, you know, to be independent, I would just, you know, go park the car at the airport, fly out for the weekend and come back. And you guys know there's a girl's code 101. Always one of your girlfriends has to know where you're going, how long you're going to be. So that just for your safety, right? But my desire to protect my air quotes independence, I foolishly was making these trips without letting, and I definitely wouldn't let family know.
Yeah, because I don't know nothing about this.
I've been delivered set free, right? And so one of the weekends I'm flying back to LA. And somebody they jacked me, you guys. They took my wallet because I would ride the little shuttle to go to the parking where I'd parked, would have the cheapest rate for the weekend.
Oh, Lord.
And I get in the shuttle, and I know the guy that did it, but I foolishly didn't realize until after he was gone that he had got my wallet. Because when I was stepping into the van, he was up close, and I turned and kind of looked at him like, finna catch these hands. And he immediately saw, and this is how bad it was, y'all. He saw that I was actually carrying, I had like this is going to sound so bad. I had a devotional.
Oh, Lord.
I had a Bible devotional I had been reading.
Wait, you took your Bible to
No, just leave it there. Just leave it there.
You took your Bible to your
on how people
booty
can
call?
I didn't say it was a booty call. It was not a booty call.
You didn't have to
it
say
it. Was not. No, let me be clear. It was not none of that. None of that stuff was going down.
You don't even buy tickets from cheaptickets.com for a Bible study. Whatever.
I'm telling you, I was not that. Don't you believe my brother. But here's how this guy got me, y'all. Because he was too close to me. And I looked at him and my brother taught me. Like, I was about to put some hands on him. And he goes, "Oh, is that a devotional?" And me and my foolish, naive self, I was like, "Yes, it is." And so we are riding in the show.
The devil knows you didn't read that devotional.
This man got my wallet.
Yeah. He could have done that all day. He know you didn't open that Bible. You didn't crack that Bible open.
I did crack it.
Yeah, that's it.
I want the record to reflect. None of those trips were inappropriate in the way my brothers tried to apply. But anyway,
you called on the Lord, I'm sure.
Story. The Lord knows. Jesus knows.
He knows. He heard you. He heard your cry.
So this man had my wallet. I didn't know because we pull up to the parking garage. Everybody goes their separate ways. I get into my car. I've got my ticket. And I'm like, where is my wallet? Long story short, I had to call my homegirl and was like, you're going to have to come and bring me. And they charge you the max at that time. And life, you had to pay the full for the day rate or whatever. If you couldn't find your ticket, they maximize it because it's your fault that you lost your wallet, whatever. So it's like 11:30 at night on a Sunday because I'm coming back in the weekend. So I'm pulling her out of her bed. She's driving now to the airport shuttle place to pick me up and to pay for my ticket. So that I got to get my stuff together. And so as she's, I get in my car and she stops and she hugs me and she says, "Anitra,
God
forward."
Forgives you.
No, she didn't do any of that. She's not judgmental like my brother. She says, moving forward, she said, let's just agree that when you're going to go to the airport, we're going to plan it in advance and I'm going to drop you off. Like basically saying in your kind of protection of your independence, you have shown your vulnerability, right? And your need, right? Instead of just purely dealing with it straight up. Instead of just saying, hey, I'm going on a trip. This is where I'm going to be. Can you help me out? Can you drive? Can you drop me off? And that becomes, again, that's why it's a versus syndrome, right? We get to these spaces where sometimes we're like, I don't want to invite people into my space because then I have to what? I have to show them my vulnerability, show them my need. I'm protecting my independence. And here's the thing. When you do that, you get exposed anyway. Because I was, right? You get exposed anyway. And now you also have to balance it out. I obviously wanted to pay her back. She wasn't requiring that. But I had to do quite a bit to kind of make, and that's the beauty of good friends. And so it even brings me to another really short story, but all about my independence, and my freedom versus the need. When I first had, when Ralph and I, my ex-husband, we first had our son Malachi, we were living in a bachelorette apartment in Inglewood. And if you guys don't know, bachelorettes are smaller than studios.
Yeah.
They don't even have, they don't even have kitchenettes. They just have like the bathroom with the tub and all that stuff, little sink area. Mm-hmm. And so they're really made, obviously not for families, or at least it can be a little bit more of a struggle to make a family work in there. And bro, I kid you not, so I had Kai, I was on maternity leave before I went back to my job. And for months, all the people at my job, family, friends were all reaching out like, hey, can we come by for a visit? We got stuff for your son and we can't wait to. And I would just shun them all.
Yeah.
I'd just say no, because I was ashamed of our living situation. Right. I was ashamed of what we had financially. And I remember once I got back to work and as I started getting back out talking to people, they all would just give me the gifts that they had collected for months. Mm-hmm, some of the stuff Kai could no longer even fit at that point. They were like, is he graduated from college at this point? Like, what's going on?
Right.
And it was because of my own, just foolish shame where people who want to have relationships with you they're trying to be the answer. They're trying to be a need. They're trying to fill needs in you or trying to help you through that process. And they don't have judgment. They don't come with that space of, oh, I'm going to judge what you are. They'll take your embarrassment, your shame, and say, here. And that's the thing that our mom said to us. She was just like, Anitra or Nikki. She was like, Nikki, they don't care about that. What they're saying is we want to share in the joy of this new, this new development in your life. We want to, and if nothing else, and she told me this too, sometimes when they see your circumstance, they're going to start filling in the needs based on what they see.
Yep.
But if you're not allowing them to see it, then, you're not allowing that space to come to where they can step in. So I'll say this and I'll kick it back to you. When it comes to that versus syndrome, both can be good. It's okay when you need to protect your independence. It's okay when you need to show your vulnerability. But when you view the need to be needed as pressure, then you block your ability to be a blessing. Your ability to be a blessing to someone else. And when you shun someone else's desire to be your solution or support to your need, you block your own blessing from coming in. And so get rid of the versus syndrome and know that both can be good and find that harmony, for that. So I'll kick it back to you, bro.
So is it a get rid of the versus or balance the versus syndrome?
Balance. That's probably better. Yeah, balance it.